Hey, it's Claire Fisher from the Dead Fictional Girlfriends Research Report, and when I'm not appearing on Jeopardy or analyzing sexism in pop culture, I'm undoing all that smart stuff by listening to Making Fun of MacGyver.
Tonight, the Summer Refresh series begins with a spirited recap, review, and ridicule of the 1979 cult classic gang movie, The Warriors. Will Sam, Mike, and Jeff be able to simultaneously dig it and come out to play? Find out next on Making Fun of MacGyver. Making Fun of MacGyver, a rib-tickling takedown of our favorite 80s adventure show, Mama's Family. Now, it's MacGyver, starring Sam Jordan as the skeptic, Mike Garland as the diehard, and Jeff Hess as the scientist.
Name's MacGyver.
Welcome, everybody, to Making Fun of MacGyver, the show where we recap, review, and lovingly ridicule every episode of the original series MacGyver, and then sometimes we have a little fun with it, like tonight. Yes, inspired by MacGyver Season 2, Episode 5, Final Approach, and the appearance of Luther, one of the gang members who gets tantalized by MacGyver's sweet brownies from scratch. We're delving into Luther's checkered past because with a little research, guys, we've discovered that Luther was in another gang, even a more high-profile gang before he met MacGyver, a gang that defied all odds on one fateful trip from the Bronx to Coney Island. Tonight, we are putting the Warriors under the Making Fun of MacGyver microscope. I am Sam Jordan, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by my two fellow MacGyverites, the Ajax of the bunch, Mike Garland.
That's exactly what I say every time I come back to Jacksonville. Hey, Jax.
Hey, Jax.
Oh, boy. And the swan of the crew, Jeff Hess.
This is a Black Swan event right here. We're going to get us talking about the entirely true backstory to a MacGyver character, about how he wound up on this episode. It's fascinating stuff.
We're digging deep into the minor characters that people demand. No one demanded it. My leather-clad lover boys, I have one serious question for you. Are you psyched to see more gangbanging than the entire browser history of Mike's iPad?
I don't think that's possible.
I use my phone. What are you talking about?
All right, good, because we're moments away from Making Fun of MacGyver. It's our 57th episode, but first, it's our opening gambit. Gentlemen, listeners, welcome to episode 57, but it's the first episode of our Summer Refresh.
Summer Refresh.
It's our leg-stretching season where we get to take a break from the episode recaps just for a little bit, try our hand at some other topics and formats, and recharge the batteries before diving into MacGyver Season 3 in September. Now, one of the Summer Refresh episodes will be made up entirely of listeners, so we're putting the call out. We're going to have a listener-focused episode where you guys can drive all the content, but we need your help to do it. We're looking for audio submissions of about 5 minutes. A little more, a little less is fine. For anyone who wants to share their MacGyver-related thoughts, it can truly be anything. Anything MacGyver. We just ask that it's good audio quality. So talk into your phone's audio recorder and send us that clip. Or if you have a microphone or something, you can send an MP3, but that's all we need. Send it to makingfunofmacgyver@gmail.com. Now, if we don't get at least 4 or 5 clips, we're going to have to vamp and scramble and come up with something else. Because we're not going to have 2 listeners and have a 9-minute episode. But if you guys want it, makingfunofmacgyver@gmail.com, you have till, I'd say, late June to get us that audio. We'd love to hear what you have to say about MacGyver. We've got a few fans to thank. On YouTube, Valerie Little, or Lytle, started following us. So, Valerie, thank you very much. On Facebook, Aaron Morehart out of Nashville, Tennessee. He started following us on Facebook, and he started liking a bunch of things. So, Aaron, pleased to meet you. Thank you for liking what we do. And there's more to come. And Aaron, I did a little, as I like to do on Facebook, I like to do a little profile snooping. Aaron, guys, is a CNC machinist. Does that sound familiar to you?
That would be Bo Rigby's job.
That's one of our top fans' occupations. Bo Rigby is also a CNC machinist. This is crazy. This is I'm not going to say it's a common job, but I mean, it's not the most obscure, but it's not something you hear a lot, right?
How do we have 2 CNC machinists and no music factories?
Well, that's the thing is I think our next move needs to be somebody from CNC Music Factory following the show. I met them once. The next time I see them, I'm going to have to make a suggestion.
Did they make you sweat, or are they still gonna make you sweat at some point?
I think they were just still trying to get everybody to dance now.
Okay. Well, we have maybe 100, 150 listeners, regular listeners, maybe. And we weren't even the first MacGyver podcast, but we need a niche, right? So the fact that we've got 2 CNC machinists listening to us, I asked show announcer Vern Sanderson to create us a new bumper liner about this fact, and he did. He just sent it to me before the show started, literally 3 minutes ago. I haven't heard it yet, but here's the new liner, I guess, touting our new credentials.
It's making fun of MacGyver, the #1 rated MacGyver podcast with CNC machinists. Oh, for fuck's sake. Are you kidding me? Are you guys serious with this pathetic horse?
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess. I guess
You bleeped shit, but the other one stayed in. Thanks, Vern.
I guess he didn't finish editing that. But anyway, we appreciate the CNC machinist love there. So if you're a CNC machinist and you like this show, please let us know, because we'd like to stay #1 with that group. Hey, if you like our brand of Mac-centric shenanigans, and we hope you do, we'd love it if you engage with us. We post some good stuff on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, so follow us there, say hi. A rating or a review would be awesome, too. So if your podcast supplier allows for such things, please give us a rating. And if email is your thing, makingfunofmacgyver@gmail.com. Oh, and there's a hotline, 904-419-3310. No one will pick up, so you're good. But if you want to leave a nice voice message, we will play that back on the show. And if you want a voice liner on our show, like Bruce McGill or Lee David's Load Off has, or if you want monthly bonus episodes where the 3 of us talk a little bit off topic and send it to you direct to your inbox, video chat hangout sessions where we just had a great one with Matt from Minnesota and Christian from Norway. We just met them kind of, in person virtually for the first time ever on a video chat. 45 minutes we talked, had a lot of fun, drank a couple beers. If you want to join us for that and co-host the show, all these details are more and more at patreon.com/makingfunofmacgyver if you want to join. But if you just want to kick back and listen for free, we'd love to have you do that as well. So, guys, there was no viewer mail this week. We're going to give that thing a rest. I think we're going to have a special viewer mail episode, standalone episode this summer where we do something with that theme, but we're giving everyone a break from that behemoth of a viewer mail theme.
So we're just doing 45 minutes of the theme song, right?
No theme song, no mail, neither.
No, I mean, you said there's going to be a special episode revolving around the viewer mail theme.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe we just leave it as a bed under the whole time?
Look forward to that, everybody.
All right, but if you would allow me to please do something right here and let me take you back to Friday, February 9th. Get ready, because the first time ever going to reference this decade, 1979. Now we're going to go right to the #1 song in the country, because it is by Rod Stewart. Rod Stewart wants to know, do ya think I'm sexy? Which is the actual title of the song. Do ya think I'm sexy? Now, I don't think he says that at any point in the song, right? It's like, if you want my body and you think I'm sexy, I think I'm sexy. But the name of the song is Do Ya Think I'm Sexy? It's from his 1978 album Blondes Have More Fun, because he was blonde, dyed his hair blonde. Written by Stewart, Carmine Appice, and Dwayne Hitchings, though it incorporates the melody from the song Taj Mahal by Jorge Ben-Hur, and the string arrangement from the song Put Something Down on It by Bobby Womack. But I think we both find one Mr. Jeffrey Hess sexier than Rod Stewart, but I reserve full judgment, until after I hear his version of this late 70s disco-tinged classic.
She sits alone, waiting for suggestions. He's so nervous, avoiding all the questions. His lips are dry, heart is pounding gently. Don't you just know exactly what they're thinking? If you want my body and you think I'm sexy, come on sugar, let me know. If you really need me, just reach out and touch me. Come on honey, tell me so.
Wow. So, I mean, so here's the thing. Like, my special MacGyver episode that I'm going to do next, I also tried to incorporate the number one songs associated with the particular TV shows that I did. And one of my episodes also had this one as the number one song. So we,
oh my gosh,
by coincidence, will have a sing-off coming up because I, too, tackled
Collision
this
course.
nonsense. And, I mean, I've heard the song on the radio for years, but it's just not, I don't know, it's so different than anything that we have sung over the last 2 years of MacGyver, probably because it's basically a disco song, but it is so different. And, kudos to you, because when I did it, I did the exact same thing that you had to do in that, like, hear it, rehear it, think about exactly what I'm trying to say. So good job. You led off quite well.
Yeah, it's the catchy parts in the middle, but honestly, like, disco bangs harder than anything that came out of the 80s. So hook it up, Rod Stewart.
Well, that takes care of the number one song. And now the number one movie in the United States in February of 1979 is the focus of tonight's show, The Warriors. And now I hand over the reins of the show to gifted gang story orator, Jeffrey Hess.
So I'm super excited to talk about this movie, Warriors. I've seen it 5 or 6 times. It's wonderful. It's a joy to watch it every single time. And it starts out great, introducing you with all the gangs, and it shows you who the Warriors are, our stars. They're headed into the Bronx for a meeting of the gangs, and the rules are 9 guys only, no guns. And the gangs have all been called together by Cyrus, who is a leader of these gangs of sorts, and he's trying to organize it.
The Gramercy Riffs is his group.
Oh.
And they're kind of like the top gang in the city. So they're calling a truce because they think they can take over the entire city.
And 20,000 more, not organized, but ready to fight. 60,000 soldiers. Now, there ain't but 20,000 police in the whole town. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Can you dig it, Mike?
I think I can dig it. I love how they got the gangs together. I mean, this would be peace talks in any walk of life. You bring in groups of differing opinions and get their leaders to agree to lay down their arms for a period of time. And everybody is there, and they're having the big rally, and at least for the moment, everybody's on board with what he's trying to say.
One of the things I think that makes this movie really great is that it just, like, insists upon its world being as it is. Like, a lot of movies will, like, want to explain why the way things are, like, well, why is this the baseball gang and that's this gang? This movie's just like, there are gangs, they're like this, they wear these crazy costumes, and they're trying to make a truce. And you just, as a viewer, you just have to accept it and enjoy the world that they built. And I think it works really well.
It starts off really strong. You gave your history with the movie, Jeff. You're the youngest of the bunch, but you've seen it the most. And then last year, when we referenced this movie, I thought I had been taken to it in a packed Bronx movie theater in the late 70s when it came out. And I'm still not sure because I called my dad last night. I said, did we go see the Warriors and sit in the aisles because the theater was so packed? And he wasn't sure either because he thought it also could have been The Wanderers, a rival gang movie that came out several months later. It's kind of that thing, Deep Impact and Armageddon where, two similar movies, and the studios are racing and the Warriors race to get this out. I think it's Paramount raced to get this out before The Wanderers. But my dad wasn't sure if we sat through The Warriors or The Wanderers. Either way, I'm the oldest of the bunch, and I feel like I've only seen it maybe twice now in completion. Mike, you had never, you might have heard of it, but you had never seen it till a few months ago.
I had never even heard of it until we watched the MacGyver episode with David Harris, Luther, and you guys talked about it. And then it was a little while, and I rented it maybe late last year on Amazon Prime and watched it for the first time. And then in preparation for this particular taping, I watched it earlier today. So I've only seen it twice.
But that line is one of the 2 iconic lines there. And I think even through the years, as I wasn't sure where the line was from, Shaquille O'Neal, I think maybe his first championship with the Lakers, gets up for the ticker tape celebration, whatever, talking to the crowd, and does the exact Cyrus speech there.
When I say, can you dig it, put your 2 hands up like that. Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
And then did it again. And I think other players have done it again. So that's where like that line, "Can you dig it?" really just took off in the late 90s, early 2000s. But yeah, it's a great start. It is the director Walter Hill kind of said it is a little bit of a comic book kind of story, and it is so much cheese, especially now viewing it all these years later. But yet there's something really compelling about it.
As I watched it this time, you mentioned the comic book story. Is it Frank Miller that has done movies that have had that comic book type style? That's what I got from this as I was watching it and paying a little bit more attention this time around.
And I watched it with my wife, who's a huge comic book nerd, and that was her exact takeaway, which is like, she kept saying, I could see this as a comic book frame. And it's totally like that. But the stylization, I think, works so well.
Now, the comic panels, is a director's cut edition that only came about, I believe, in 2005. The movie was not released with these comic transitions and the wipes, the comic panels. That is a new thing for the director's
We
edition.
watched the original.
Okay.
So we didn't. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I didn't know there was an update. But even from the original, she could say, like, because when they introduced the gangs right at the beginning and they're showing clips of them, it looks like clips out. It looks like a comic book frame. So it's clear to me the director had a very clear vision, and it works so well.
And the gangs
but
are
I've
hysterical.
got bad news for. Yeah,
I mean,
they're
the
ridiculous.
boppers in the slick, the purple outfits, and then the hi-hats or the top hats are pretty much mimes.
hi-hats.
The hi-hats are pretty much mimes with big stovetop hats and just
There's a baseball team.
baseball furies. I mean, the gangs are
Yep.
so much of what makes this movie so memorable that they're silly. And I saw one of the DVD extras with the costume designer, and she just, there's this woman who just kind of ran with it and wasn't sure where to go, but definitely hit it out of the park on some of these costumes. But okay, we'll get back to the the summary.
Well, I've got bad news for both of you because a sweaty, jumpy villain, who is my favorite character in the whole show, shoots and kills Cyrus and falsely blames the Warriors for being at fault.
There he is! That's him! That's the warrior! He shot Cyrus!
Man, you're crazy. I didn't do nothing.
We saw him!
Yeah, that's him.
He's the one! He's the one! The Warriors did it! The Warriors did it! The Warriors did it! The Warriors did it!
So all these gang members are now giving chase to the Warriors, who managed to make a narrow escape and get to a train. Unfortunately for them, the radio DJ is on the side of the other gangs.
All right now, for all you boppers out there in the big city, all you street people with an ear for the action, I've been asked to relay a request from the Gramercy Riffs. It's a special for the Warriors. That's that real live bunch from Coney. And I do mean the Warriors.
And the chase is on.
It's just one big chase movie. And if you just read the plot on a piece of paper, for me at least, I'd be like, nah, not interested. But it worked somehow.
And the DJ's she's like taunting them the whole time. She's this uber catalyst for all the other gangs trying to catch the Warriors. We're radio people. We're not supposed to be against the good guys here.
She reminds me a bit of the DJ from Do the Right Thing, who I think is also,
Yes.
You never see their face. You just hear them speaking into the microphone. Very 80s New York thing.
And it's also that Greek chorus thing where the old days of the amphitheater, the Greek chorus would come out and kind of summarize and be the fourth wall, tell you what's happening in the story. And that's kind of what she's doing.
So they manage to escape a couple of different attacks before they run into a group called the Orphans, who are like a bunch of ragtag-looking
love this
kids.
part. It's so silly, so cheesy. Love it.
And they're like encyclopedia guys, like, oh, this is who the orphans are and how many people they have. And they are negotiating with the orphans, trying to get their way through. And a beautiful woman enters the scene. And boy, does she cause trouble.
Are you just gonna let an army walk through here anytime they feel like it? How's it gonna look?
Get lost.
Well, pretty soon every gang's just gonna boogie right in. Soldier right through.
I'll tell you.
The man you are.
What's the opinion on her off the bat?
Well, I recognize her from a sitcom called Too Close for Comfort in the early to mid 80s with Ted Knight as the lead. So I'm definitely familiar with her. That is Deborah Van Valkenburg. This was her first role, pretty much, and she they didn't think she was going to get the part. She wasn't. I guess they wanted the director wanted mostly black and Hispanic cast, and the studio said nope, no, we're not doing that. So they gave they compromised there, but I think she's straight up American, white, but I think she does a good job.
She was.
She could look Puerto Rican or Italian.
She played her role quite well. She definitely made the orphans look like fools. She was tougher than any of the orphan guys were, and the lead orphan, who looked like a young Ray Romano or something like that, he took a backseat to her. So I mean, she definitely had a character with a lot of chutzpah.
Yeah, I love that casting too. I don't have his name in front of me, but he's got the lazy eye, right? And it just kind of adds to this underdog like tale of woe for this group who's dressed in like Gap rejects, pretty much, like green t-shirts and jeans, like that's their outfit, and it's like, hey, we're the orphans, like how come we weren't invited to the gang meeting? And your leader is just kind of like, he looks like, he's a little bit of a misfit. So I just think the casting was great there, and I'm believing in that moment when they're confronted by the orphans.
Well, and I think it's set up really well because you've already been introduced to like really extreme looking gangs, and then here's one that's like, you understand what like a ragtag group of kids look like as you ramp up to the more extreme
They're
gangs.
like the little dog that's snipping and yipping and barking and like trying to hang on to the shirt tail of the bigger dog.
Well, they try to, and this girl damn near gets them killed. So the orphans attack, and the warriors have to escape once again. And they use a Molotov cocktail and set a car on fire. And for some reason, Swan, the leader, grabs this chick, and they run off together. So I cannot for the life of me figure out why you would bring this woman with you after she tried to get you murdered.
I'd say this is where the main problem I have with this movie is a lot through the lens of 40 years later, but it is the treatment of her and just their overall view on women. It's just like, I know they're a gang, right? So, but they're the gang we're supposed to root for. And
it gets worse.
It does get worse. But it is a question. Why would you take someone who's associated with a rival gang? That didn't make any sense. I know you need the love interest for the movie, but it did seem odd.
They threatened to group rape her, like when they first meet her. Like, it's awful.
He says, maybe we should run a train on you. And that's like, wait, This is the love story? Like, that is,
So they escape, and this escape, oddly, delights the main villain, Luther.
Well, some two-bit outfit almost got them, but they fought their way past. We can make them at the 96th Street station. The platform's probably crawling with cops. Cops are trying to rack up every gang in this town. Yeah, me and you included. How come you're so happy about this? I'm having a good time. Let's go!
Love it. Total sociopath. He's great.
Played by David Patrick Kelly, and he's been working all these years, but boy, and this is one of his first roles, just kind of like rat-like, small, like Napoleon, just kind of needly annoying, scary, but psycho. Yeah, just he does a great job. You know what? Going back to, I'm just sorry, when he says that's him, they shot Cyrus. He does such a great job on that line. There's a little stutter in there. He's like, they're the ones. They're the ones. They shot. Like, he just, like, whatever stutter he does, and a great job on the director, too, to pull that cut.
And he needed to convince himself to go through with the lie. It was like, okay, I shot Cyrus, but I'm going to blame them. Now I need to double down and believe this lie.
So they manage to escape that. They go to a train station where this time it's the cops who are waiting rather than another gang. So they do battle with the cops. The cops murder one of the warriors by flinging them in front of a train. But they manage to escape those cops. Then they run into baseball-wielding guys, the Furies. They have like a baseball bat fight, and they escape those guys. And this does not sit well with the radio DJ.
Okay, let's get down to it, boppers. We're gonna have to do better out there. Our friends just made it past one of the minor league teams. Remember, boppers, be looking good.
I would have to say that the baseball gang is my favorite gang in the movie. And as I watched the fight and the chase scene between the Warriors and the Furies, I'm thinking, how much running did these guys do? Like, how many takes did they do here? How much running was involved? Like, kudos to the actors or the stunt men, the extras that did that. That was a lot of legwork, literally.
There's a scene earlier that I didn't specifically talk about where they outrun the skinhead gang that's driving a van. There are several very long running scenes that make no logistical sense as to how the Warriors were outrunning these people, but there is a lot of running. Like Tom Cruise level running.
The Turnbull ACs, the skinheads, they're in that homemade school bus. But yeah, the Baseball Furies are kind of like probably the most iconic gang from the movie. They're dressed up as baseball players with Kiss-like makeup. Kiss, huge at the time. That's like peak Kiss, era, 1978, 1979.
How you doing, Furies?
And the director, Walter Hill, big baseball fan. I guess that's why they did that. But yeah, it is really a strange look, but it does work, and it's just enjoyable cheese.
I think it's probably the most iconic group. I might be going out on a limb here, so if I am, kind of reel me back, but I also getting Clockwork Orange vibes off of all this, primarily from like the lingo. So you heard the crazy guy earlier. It's like, oh, they bopped their way past them, and they talk about getting wasted for getting killed. And Clockwork Orange is noted for its like gang lingo language. So I'm getting a lot of like inspiration vibes from this. And the out of control gang thing and urban crime was so huge as a genre in the 70s and 80s because the crime really was out of control. Right. And so this fits right in with that. Lest you think that running from 60,000 soldiers and 20,000 cops is enough to keep these guys busy, one of the most detestable members of the gang decides now is a good time to try and stop and rape a woman who's sitting by herself on a park bench, to which no one of the other gang members tries to even stop him. But this doesn't go well for him.
Your nights in the park are over for a while, honey. You're under arrest.
Hey, lady. Come on, lady.
Kiss my ass.
So she's changed into a bench.
Come on, lady. Come on. Quit playing around. You don't want to play around with me.
So very much like a caged animal there.
Now, do we agree that she was an undercover cop, or was she a well-prepared citizen?
Undercover cop.
No, she's an undercover cop. Yeah. And they sure are slow responding to that whistle.
Yes. But that's also...
It's a solid 90 seconds.
That's a weird... undercover sting, isn't it? I'm just going to sit here, not really dressed provocatively. I'll just sit out here 11 o'clock at night on this park bench and wait until someone comes by and wants to rape me. But unfortunately, again, for the protagonist group here, the Warriors, you've got Ajax here. And Ajax, we've already seen, is hot-headed. He wants to rumble. He thinks he should be the lead. So we didn't mention that Cleon is the gang leader. Cleon gets taken out by the Gramercy Riffs. And now Swan, the white guy, played by Michael Beck, Swan is in the lead, but Ajax kind of wanted to be the leader, the war chief.
Was anyone else expecting Cleon to make a reappearance at the end of the movie?
Yes.
Yeah, he doesn't. He gets stomped. The Riffs take care of him right at the beginning.
Right.
And I kept thinking, he's coming back. He's coming back. He doesn't come back.
Right. But yeah, to go see, like, you're being chased by rival gangs. You need to get back to Coney Island, but then you see a woman on the bench and you're going to stop it. And then it's not that it's just maybe he just wants some action, right, or whatever, and you're going to see what you can do. But then he's talking to her, and she's responding in kind, I guess, to set the bait, right, the honey for the trap. But then he just plunges in with both hands at her chest, and it becomes sexual assault pretty quickly. And yeah, this is our group, so I don't know why, he should be gone.
Not the good guys anymore.
So help me out. I don't. Well, would the audience have coded these guys as the good guys, Sam, in 1979, or would they have just been read as the least bad guys?
Well, it's not just with this movie. Think about any movie, and this is a problem for me. What about The Sopranos? I couldn't watch The Sopranos because
I hated that show.
Because Tony Soprano is the protagonist, but he's a killer, and he does despicable things to people. I can't deal with I could watch one movie like that, but I would not watch a Warriors series in which they were robbing and beating people and raping people, but also I'm supposed to root for them when they get in trouble. But in this situation, I mean, he's the bad apple, and he gets ejected there.
Yeah, and I said good guys because obviously they're being set up from the initial assassination there at the beginning. So like in theory, all of the bad stuff that happens to the Warriors and their guys from the beginning of the movie is because of being accused. So now they're the wrongfully accused, but they just make a litany of horrible choices along the way.
So they continue their chase. They're separated once further again. Swan and the girl get separated from three of the other guys after Ajax gets arrested. The three guys who get separated fall for their own honeypot. So Ajax falls for the undercover cop in the park. These three guys fall for the Lizzies, which is the girl gang. They draw them up to a building, lock them in, and the shooting starts.
So you're the famous Warriors, the guys that shot Cyrus.
Shit, the chicks are packed! The chicks are packed!
So the Lizzies try to kill the Warriors, but the Warriors manage to escape. While the three guys who fell into the honeypot are getting away, Swan and Mercy are walking through the subway tunnels as they make their own escape, and she's flirting with him hardcore and trying to get him into her. And Swan through this whole thing is just being really standoffish and a real jerk, and he's rejecting her claims. Then he seems like he might make out with her, and then he really rejects her by calling her a whore and saying she sleeps with so many guys she can't even remember what their names or faces look like.
I don't think you can remember what they look like.
Sometimes I can and sometimes I can't. Who gives a damn? I see what's happening next door and down the block. Belly hanging down, 5 kids, cockroaches in the cupboard. I'll tell you what I want. I want something now. This is the life I got left. You know what I mean?
That's the quote that really puts into mind the kind of the framework for where the people in this movie are coming from, which is they see themselves surrounded by poverty and death and desolation, and they've just fallen for nihilism.
Yeah.
And what matters is what matters for them right now. This is the tiny bit of life I've got, so I'm going to steal every moment of it.
Yeah, he's not coming from a place of wealth or anything like that. So he says to her at some point, I don't like the way you live. Like, she's like, why are you giving me a hard time? He says, I don't like the way you live. You're in a gang, okay? You're robbing and stealing and beating people up. And how does he know or think that she's so promiscuous? How would he even know that so far? Way too many character judgments on this part of our hero, Swan, unfortunately.
I don't think he does. He's just trying to hurt her.
Right. But why? Why
and
even hurt her?
She responds like, who are you to talk to me? You're a freaking gang member, violent. You let your friends rape, and like, why are you criticizing me if I get laid?
Now, is it her initial antagonism that we think deserves all this, payback from Swan, where she comes down and she causes the problem? Is that why we should be able to root for him to talk this smack to her?
So I definitely think that's what Swan is thinking.
Right.
But also Swan throughout the show has shown that he is single-minded in his focus and is not going to let anything distract him. And this is just his way of dealing with it, but it's detestable. So fortunately for us, the boys who get caught in the honeypot learn a clue, because the girl I played in the clip earlier, she says, you're the guys who shot Cyrus. So now the Warriors know why everyone is chasing them. But they're still on the quest to get back to Coney Island. Fast forward, they all meet at Union Station. They're home free! They get on the train. The sun is rising. Coney Island is in sight. The ocean is near. And who would appear but our main antagonist, psychopath himself, Luther, with one of the most iconic lines of the decade.
Warriors, come out to play. Warriors, come out to play. Warriors, come out to play. Warriors, come out to play.
And this goes on for some time as the Warriors set themselves up in their defensive position on the beach. And I believe they're called the Rogues, led by Luther, confront them on the beach.
Unfortunately, you don't really hear their name too much. The gang that, and they look like rejects from the Ramones, the punk group. That is not a scary looking bunch. The Rogues. They're all white guys, tall, bony white guys in leather that just don't. But we know they're packing heat, though. We know they're willing to kill anyone. At least Luther is. So there's your danger.
And they have the most reckless leader.
Right.
Where the Riffs are scary for their order
Right.
and control, the Rogues are scary because this guy's a complete loose cannon. Right. So Luther confronts Swan on the beach, and Swan asks him, why did you do this? Why did you kill Cyrus, and why did you set us up?
When we see the ocean, we figure we're home. We're safe.
This time you got it wrong.
Why'd you do it? Why'd you waste Cyrus?
No reason. I just like doing things like that.
I love it. Absolutely rotten to the end. Completely amoral. There's no reason for him being crazy. He says, I'm having a good time. Like, he's just completely psychotic. But The showdown happens. Swan challenges Luther to a one-on-one fight to end this once and for all. Luther pulls a gun. Swan pulls a knife. Swan dodges the bullet, throws the knife into Luther's arm, who drops the gun and cries like a little bitch. The Riffs show up. They heard the confession. It looks like the Riffs are about to beat down the Warriors, but instead they surround Luther and his gang. And it cuts over to Swan and Mercy, who have a brief interlude where Swan says, I'm going to get out of here. Mercy says, I'm coming with you. And everything is wrapped up, except for one person. We need to hear from the DJ one last time.
Good news, boppers. The big alert has been called off. It turns out that the early reports were wrong. All wrong. Now, for that group out there that had such a hard time getting home, sorry about that. I guess the only thing we can do is play you a song.
Sorry about that. And that's the end of the movie.
Mike, how about you're the most, newest to the movie. What are your thoughts on it?
Watching it even today and paying a little more attention to it because I had to, it reminds me of how different the style of filmmaking was then versus what is acceptable today. Like Luther's scene at the end with the clinking of the bottles and the long drawn out warriors come out to play. Like, sure, it was perfect for that scene and the way that actor played it, but it was so long and drawn out. Like I don't think there would be that many bottle clinks in a movie today. If I had to rate this on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I probably would say I can't offer a rating because I don't get it. Like, it was entertaining, but I don't know. Well, my rating is NA. Like, I don't get it. I watched the movie. I understand what happened, but I don't get what I was supposed to take from that. It wasn't a comedy. It wasn't an action film. It wasn't a drama. Like, what was it? What did I watch?
I think you really got to put your mind back to the mid-'70s when we think of New York now, and New York now is like Disneyland safe. But in the 70s, the place apparently was a stinking hellhole of crime and corruption, and people like viewed New York like this. This is when the Death Wish movies came out, the Dirty Harry movies came out. So there was a whole lot of like violent crime, urban crime, revenge film stuff. And part of the elements of that was just its randomness and its unbridled and sort of out of control violence that had no purpose and no need. And so that's where I think some of that comes from. But I do love, one of the things I love about it is, especially watching it back again, the script is really tight. So there's not a lot of wasted fat. Things that happened earlier come back and mean a lot. There's a scene where Swan, who's single-minded in his intensity, is like setting up this roller skate gang. And he's like, the girl comes up to warn him and he's like, I know they're there. And now they know I know. And so Swan's always kind of thinking ahead. And it gets to the end and they're on the train together. They're headed to Coney Island. And these young preppy people come in their prom outfits. And it's the traditional scene from like Full Metal Jacket, where you see the young kids at the start of the film and then you see them at the end of the film and they're the grizzled war veterans. And that's what Swan and Mercy look like. They look dirty. Her feet are completely covered in stuff. He is all beat up. She looks terrible. And they look at these preppy kids in their prom outfits, and it's like they're from completely different worlds. And it's really effective to me, the way that ending works.
That probably is the only poignant moment in the whole movie, because Mercy goes to fix her hair, and Swan puts her hand down like, no, you're fine the way you are. Don't try and pretty yourself up for the. And that is like, that's some really good movie making right there. There's not much of that in the rest of the movie. The acting, I don't think you can say the acting is amazing. Well, I guess no. Luther, that's some pretty stellar acting, but it's just a cauldron of different things that to me makes this movie so appealing.
Well, and that bit with I noticed that with the hair thing too, and I don't think I'd noticed that in previous watches, but when she goes to fix her hair because she's aware of them looking at her and how it makes her feel less, and Swan's like, no. He's staring those people down like, you don't apologize to these people.
Now remember, we started talking about this movie because the actor David Harris was in an episode of MacGyver. He played, was it Cochise? And I don't believe you referenced Cochise once during this entire recap. So how about,
which one is he? Is he the one with the Indian gear and the afro?
Yes, and how about how much David Harris changed between presumably when this was filmed in 1978 to that 1986 time frame? I mean, in that 8 years, I don't know if he got taller, but he buffed up. He got bigger.
Well, he's still playing a teenager.
Well, let's talk about this.
David Harris was 19 when Warriors was filmed, so still a legit teenager, a young man, and naturally a lot of growing up and evolving will happen. But he had a role that, even though it wasn't as prevalent as Swan or as Luther, he stood out because of his flashy outfit.
Yeah, and he does have a number of lines, poorly delivered, but he does have them.
This movie was cast entirely out of New York City. They grabbed everyone from New York.
Yeah, I think the casting works. I think Ajax is really good. Swan I'm not impressed with. The girl I thought was really good. Obviously, I think Luther's great, but it's pretty obvious to me that Cochise got sent to the West Coast by his parents after this whole Warriors event, and to help disguise his...
He takes on the name
Luther. He's trying to separate himself from his past. He's getting sent to like this youth rehabilitation camp where he meets like MacGyver. It's so obvious.
Rest in peace, Marcelino Sanchez, who was Rembrandt here, the young Hispanic big Afro guy. He died just 6-7 years later, unfortunately. So, from the time of this film,
that's unfortunate. He was good in this role, and I think
I believe he was.
He goes a long way towards softening the Warriors' rougher edges because he's clearly younger. And when they're in the honeypot with the Lizzies, he's on top of his shit. Like, this is not the right place to be, guys. But he's kind of like weak, and takes a lot of he adds a lot of sweetness to that the other gangs don't have.
So sadly, he died of AIDS-related cancer in his Hollywood home in 1986. This was his third film role.
You say AIDS? AIDS?
AIDS, yeah. So you can kind of see that casting there a little bit because they're in with the Lizzies. Of course, that's a whole nother thing, right? Lizzies kind of meaning like lesbians, whatever. But he's the only one that's not going for the girls, right? Because I guess they're alluding to the fact that he might be gay or maybe too young to want to stop the getaway and mess around with girls. But unfortunately, he died.
So wait, Lizzies is a slang for lesbians?
Well, I think that's why they gave him that name, the Lizzies. I think so. So I was watching the extras on the Blu-ray, and that joke was made a couple of times. But yeah, I think they're lesbians, and they're pretending to want to mess around with the Warriors. James Remar, the actor who went on to the most success here is James Remar, who plays Ajax in this one. So he's the kind of the bad apple of the Warriors bunch. And I can't tell you anything huge that he's been in, but still acting and has been in a ton of things, ton of TV shows. NCIS Los Angeles, Gotham, what else we got? I don't know, just a lot of stuff over the years. Dexter.
There are 3 guys from this movie that were in 48 Hours. James Remar was in 48 Hours. David Patrick Kelly was in 48 Hours. And a gentleman named Sonny, what's his name here? Sonny Landham was also in 48 Hours. Sonny Landham, I think, was one of the cops in this particular movie. And there was a gentleman that was involved with the production, also was involved with 48 Hours. Walter Hill, I believe. So there was a tie over with
Walter
48
Hill
Hours.
directed this movie? Right. They did. I saw that he did 3 movies with David Patrick Kelly. So Walter Hill did The Warriors, 48 Hours, Johnny Handsome. I don't know. It looked like he didn't really keep going to much success on the movie directing front, but directing a lot of TV and producing and stuff like that. But let's give some credit to Walter Hill because I think he does a really good job of directing in this movie. It was based on a novel by Saul Urich from the 60s. So this novel came out in the 60s, and I think they twisted a few things intentionally from the original novel. It was there were some changes there. Actually, I read Swan was supposed to get abducted by a gay gang and about to get like sodomized and escapes. So they cut that out. I think they might have even filmed it, but they cut that out. Yeah.
There's enough sexual assault in this film without that. But I think the directing is absolutely outstanding in this. I disagree with some of the choices. Like, there are really long cuts. A lot of these long chases could have been cut down, but the confidence with which the movie presents itself still rings so clear to me. To open the movie on scenes of these ridiculous gangs and to just plunge you right into the plot. The movie starts within the first 5 minutes. Cyrus is shot, and it never wavers in its confidence that the audience is going to like get invested in its world, which is ridiculous. It's like no world we've ever seen, but it feels so real and grounded. It's excellent work.
Walter Hill told David Patrick Kelly, the last shot, Luther, he says, do something, intimidating, taunt them. And David Patrick Kelly's first idea was to hold 2 dead pigeons. He was going to have 2 dead pigeons and taunt them with that. And then they changed that. And then David Patrick Kelly improvised "Come Out to Play." He did that because he said he had a neighbor. I guess he used to live in Manhattan, and he had a neighbor who would taunt him. He'd said like David. So he was referencing a neighbor that used to taunt him. That was a totally improvised ad lib. "Come Out to Play" was all on the spot.
And I'm looking at YouTube. I know, Sam, you watched some clips on there. There's a bunch of, I guess, reunion type clips. They did maybe a short film, The Warriors, the last ride or something, of the subway ride home, where select cast members come together and they ride the subway back to Coney Island one more time. I haven't figured out if it's like a feature length or a short. Like, there's only...
No, I don't think it is. I think it's just a short thing with Rolling Stone did it. But this is you want to talk about the term cult classic. This is a definitive cult classic. I mean, now, it's weird to say that about a movie that opened up #1 for 2 weeks at the box office. It was #1 for those 2 weeks in February. However, gangs were going to see this movie, and in several theaters throughout the country, big skirmishes happened, fights. I don't know if someone died. I don't believe someone died, but there was violence. So Paramount pulled back on all the marketing and tried to hush this thing down because they were getting bad press. But this was a #1 movie at the box office for 2 weeks, but actual physical violence was breaking out because existing gang members were sitting, next to each other.
I think it became a cult classic because it had a big splash and sort of faded, but it's one of these movies where it's grown in its esteem over time. It's had a lot of impact on people who have made subsequent films that are like it. The quality of the story and the filmmaking itself have really stood the test of time. So even though there's some very 70s things about it, like terrible stunts where they bust through like very obviously fake doors and windows, some really unusual choices with shot length and things like that, and the really electronic music track, like there's a lot of very late 70s things about it, but the core of the film has really endured, and the impression it made on other filmmakers has really made a big impact.
You talk about the music track. I mean, could the movie end though with a song that's any more iconic now than Joe Walsh's "In the City"? I mean, that's a really cool and popular song even to this day. And I mean, Joe Walsh is still active with the Eagles. He's still acting, but you had that big song as part of the closing credits.
And the DJ, sorry about that.
An opening narration was planned. It was going to be voiced by Orson Welles, but they bailed on it. So this is based on Xenophon's Anabasis, the account of an army of Greek mercenaries who, after aligning themselves with Cyrus the Younger in the Battle of Cunaxa 401 BC, in his attempt to seize the Persian throne, found themselves isolated behind Persian enemy lines. So not only is it based on a 1965 book, it's based on a 401 BC story.
Yeah, sometimes the things that don't happen to a movie are as important as the things that do happen. That would have been disaster. I can't imagine, like, instant 10% downgrade if this film opens with voiceover. Guess
who was offered the lead but chose to film the TV series Taxi
Will Smith.
instead? Tony Danza. Tony Danza could have been Swan. Or maybe he was going to be Vermin, who's the more Italian-looking guy. I'm not sure.
Danny DeVito.
But I think he was going
to... I mean, taking Taxi is not a bad choice. That launched his career.
No. Yeah. Right. Legitimate gangs in New York had occasional beefs with the production. They were coming by. They did not want to see people wearing other colors in their neighborhoods, and like security had to come and like prevent things, and people on the actors had to take off the Warriors' vests when they were not shooting and out of the protection. It was that serious.
So they were not method acting, because the real Warriors would not take their vest off. Remember the girl? Mercy demands a vest in order for them to pass through the orphans' territory, and they reject her.
It just seems like such a long ago era, doesn't it? I mean, I'm sure we still have gangs today, but I think that's one thing that this country's gotten better with. We have less gangs because were you guys ever like romanticized, by the thought of being a gang? I remember being 7, 8, 9, 10 in the Bronx and my friends being like, yeah, let's have a gang. And one kid had a Swiss Army knife. There's your MacGyver tie-in. And it's like, it'll be so cool. We'll have matching jackets. Like, it was a cool thing to think to be in a gang at like 8, 9, 10 years old without even knowing what it meant. Was that a thing you guys ever kicked around with
I grew up in the country, so no, definitely not.
They're called militias where you grew up, Jeff.
Yeah. We got them. They wear white hoods instead of red vest.
No, I never. I mean, you had your clique, you had your group of buddies or whatever, but I never thought of a true gang in the sense of this.
Well, we got one now. Making fun of MacGyver.
You make a really good point, Sam. That this movie, I guess I understand it because I watch a lot of films and I watch a lot of older films, but like Crime in the City was such a centerpiece of this era of filmmaking that when they remade Death Wish with, I think, Bruce Willis 4 or 5 years ago, total bomb. So the culture has changed so much that people don't even have like the I want to join a gang or I'm going to go out in the violent revenge fit, like this white guy angry revenge film. It didn't resonate at all. But here's just for a comparison. I'm looking at New York, the city of New York crime stats. So take these with a grain of salt. But from 2021 to their 30 years ago, that would have been 91. Crime down 70%. Almost hard.
Crime is down 70% from
1990 to now. And it might have fallen even further since the 70s. Just almost impossible for us to quantify. So we're 79. The
released in 79.
So there were in 1979, New York City had a population of 17.5 million, 2,000 murders. In 2019, population of 19.5 million, 2 million more people, 500 murders. 4 times the murder rate. We now have a difficult time putting ourselves in the minds of 70s, 80s, 90s Americans when crime really was out of control in a lot of places.
And then by the 80s and 90s, it was strict. When you said the word gang, you strictly thought of the West Coast. You strictly thought of Compton and LA and MS-13 is where, I don't know, but you just don't hear about gangs much. And then Hell's Angels and biker gangs. But fortunately, I think gangs are on the decline. Let's keep that trend going.
New York, the crime index in New York, 1979 was 1 million, whatever that means. The index in 2020 was 300,000. So 70% decline. And also, I agree, like the 90s era gang film was all black gangs. It was Dead Presidents. It was all that kind of stuff.
Right. Menace to Society. Yep. So, okay, we've recapped. We've a little bit ridiculed. One more thing I wanted to ridicule was that kiss they have as the subway is going by. That is an awkward, rough, long kiss. And again, watching the extras, they said the direction was to keep it going until right as the subway car passed by them. That's when they end it. But boy, that was a rough-looking kiss between those two.
That's some real snogging.
It didn't look passionate. It looked forced.
Painful.
So, favorite gang. What's your favorite gang out of all the gangs we saw?
Oof.
Baseball gang.
So many
it's got it. I like the Baseball Furies.
And if not the baseball gang, okay, here's my top 3. Baseball gang, roller skating gang, and orphans.
Okay. I thought it was a roller skating gang too. It's only the one guy.
Yeah.
They're called the punks. Right. It's just the one guy.
He's the leader.
I want to know, if you're a group of young men, who's designing these how are you talking to your other young bros to go shirtless in a red vest? Like painting your face, wearing
it's a lifestyle choice.
Wearing top hats and mime gear? Like, what is going on?
And how do you communicate to people if you're wearing mime gear?
With our fist, Mike.
That's what I said. It looked like a middle-aged woman, a designer who did all these and didn't really know the first thing about gangs, she says, but she got some instruction. So some of this is definitely coming maybe from a more theatrical, female-centric point of view, and it's pretty silly. Overalls. But that's part of what makes this movie work. It's just so silly. The gangs, the Lizzies, punks, the Rogues, it would look like the Ramones, the Gramercy Riffs, the Boppers had the purple, shiny purple vests. You pretty much just see them in that first shot. The Boyle Avenue Runners, the Electric Eliminators had the yellow satin jackets, and it says Electric Eliminators on the back. The hi-hats. Yeah, so great gangs.
Totally.
It was the Stubbins and Marlowe gang credited as
and I...
The Stubbins and Marlowe's.
And I didn't even break this up into Axminsters either. So...
true. But let's review this thing. Let's review the Warriors. Jeff, you go first.
I think I've made my feelings about it pretty clear throughout. I demanded that I be allowed to do the recap because I love this film. Rewatching it rose in my esteem. I would have given it a 6 before we watched it. for the whatever the fifth time, it's good for the history of movies and things like that. I'm moving it up to a 7.5. We doing half ratings? We are now.
We don't do half, so
I can't push it to an 8. It's a 7. It's very entertaining. It's got some loose ends on it. Some things you would tighten up if you made it now. But my wife had never seen it. She was delighted by it. I enjoyed. Oh yeah, she loved it. I loved watching every minute again, and I would watch it anytime someone put it on. And it's better than 7 out of 10 movies that get made out of Hollywood. And there's a reason that we're still watching it almost 50 years later. So, congrats to the whole crew of the Warriors. 7 out of 10.
Well, I just said a little bit ago that if I had a chance to rate this thing that I wouldn't know what to give, and I guess technically I still don't, but I probably have to. If I can step back...
Oh, we're rating it in leather vests, by the way. So that's 7 leather vests.
If I can step back and rate it as someone who can appreciate cinematography, appreciate acting, characters really diving into their roles, I've got to give it an 8. Because what you get from the Warriors gang and from Luther and even the radio DJ lady, like, everybody played a part. This movie was a puzzle that was full during the initial meeting. Then after the assassination, you have 500 puzzle pieces everywhere. But at the end, the puzzle comes back together. So I give it an 8 because every one of those pieces was integral to telling the story.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. I like that you gave it an 8. I thought you were going to go like 4 or 5, but what if you couldn't rate it as that guy who you just described, who can appreciate acting and directing? What if you couldn't rate it as that guy? What would you give it?
2.
So do we just turn it into a 5 for Mike?
No, give it a real 8. It's not my kind of movie. It's not the type of movie that if I otherwise didn't have to watch it, like, I wouldn't. So there are elements to certain movies I just don't get, or I don't understand how I'm supposed to be entertained by this. But I took a film criticism class in college. I can understand stepping back and trying to look at the big picture, which is the way I've tried to offer that review.
Well, and I agree with your assessment there, where you talk about how, like, it starts as a completed picture, gets all upset, and comes back together at the end. That's what I mean when it's got a really solid script, which everything really works together. It doesn't feel like things are added to the plot extraneously, and so I think that's good criticism, Mike.
So this is a movie. I'm the oldest, and I may have seen it in theaters at the time, but didn't really remember it.
Just take it. No one's gonna know the difference.
I don't know.
I sat in the alley. I'm gonna steal your story if you don't take it. I sat in the aisles and watched Warriors in the Bronx.
Yeah. But I really didn't remember much, and this could really be the first full, complete viewing I've had of this movie ever in my life that I can remember. And it was last week, and man, if I didn't enjoy it. And I cringed in some parts. You know, there's lots of stuff that's out of date. There's some low budget stuff. The acting is iffy in spots, but the mix, the combination of this stew is just delicious. And I'm not going to go crazy high with a rating, because I think you can give a high rating to a movie and love it and recognize that it's still not a great movie, and that is the case here. But man, so many things work for me. This is really a deserved cult classic movie in my opinion. Love it. So I've got 7 leather vests out of 10 to go with Jeff, and I think it's tough to come into this movie for the first time in 2022, 1979, with a lot of movies like that, as Mike does. But if Mike sees this movie as a 12 or 14-year-old at the time, I'm sure he feels differently about it. So thanks, Mike, for joining us on this. But yeah, I got 7. So we add up a 7, and
8.
Mike's... What, 5?
He said 8.
I gave it an 8.
I'm taking it. 7.
All right, so it's a 7. So the Warriors is a 7 for making fun. And Luther, we tried to get in touch actually with David Harris. We reached out to him, couldn't reach him. Right, Mike? No
feedback. He has a website where they have some media clips of him and autographed items available, and there was a contact portal. So I reached out and I even followed up, but did not hear back.
Now, did you tell him we wanted to talk to him also about his role on MacGyver?
I did.
Okay.
I worked in both.
Because he probably gets enough Warriors, love, but to say, yeah, we want to talk about that episode of MacGyver. And did Richard Dean Anderson really bake brownies? But yeah, no, enjoyable. chance to talk about this movie. And we'll do one more movie later on this summer. I don't know. I guess we can keep it a mystery for now, but it is related to another season 2 character from MacGyver. Any other final thoughts, guys?
Come out to play.
This was fun because it was different. I know I enjoyed doing the episode recaps every other week, but every now and then it's fun to branch off and do something a little bit different.
All right, well, I guess that wraps it up. And
hey, doorbell.
I got it. Let me get it, guys.
Hopefully it's the pizza I ordered.
Hello? Strange. Nobody's here.
Wait. Do you hear that?
Hey, I actually do hear a little bit of something. What is that?
Oh my gosh. It sounds like maybe bottles clinking together?
Don't look now, guys. There's actually a hearse coming down the street.
Oh man, look, it's that guy Lucius from our rival podcast, Belittling Mr. Belvedere.
Making fun of MacGyver. Come out to play.
Hey man, how you doing?
Making fun of MacGyver. Come out to play.
Look, we're both trying to have some fun here. I promise there's room enough on the internet for everyone to talk about their favorite 80s TV shows. Come on, let's do it together.
Making fun of MacGyver. Come out to play.
Oh man, they're not stopping it. Look, he's rolling down the window. He's got a gun.
Well, they probably know we're a MacGyver podcast, that we never actually use guns. We're sitting ducks here.
Good point. Jeff, quick, can you MacGyver up something? Anything I can throw at them?
You bet I can. With the power of science and the right ingredients, it's really surprising when you put one thing together with another thing and you come up with the formula for getting out of trouble.
Shut up, Captain America. I actually have something right here. Hold on.
Hey, Mike, can
Look,
we create
it's a
you
bottle of vodka, a handkerchief, and a lighter. We've got this.
No. Mike, I've got this.
Yeah, Mike, butt out of it. Let Jeff handle this. He's the scientist, okay?
I already lit it. It's an actual Molotov cocktail. It's burning in my hand. I've got to throw it before it...
There you go.
What the hell are you doing?
I knew my Swiss Army knife with the pocket fire extinguisher would come in handy.
Good thinking, Jeff. That takes care of that.
Come on, let's
You're gonna get us killed, dude. They're rolling down the windows and they're aiming their guns at us. We are unarmed.
Almost finished. Just need one more 2x4 and a little more duct tape. There it is. It's done. Impromptu sawdust spraying conveyor belt.
Oh, that's great, Jeff. That's just what I was thinking, to take care of these guys, these baddies. Turn it on. Let's see how it works. It's working. It's driving away.
Hey,
Awesome.
I knew it would come in handy. All those illegal Google searches.
what a terrible idea that was, Mike. Molotov cocktail.
A Micah
What are
top
you carrying
cocktail.
around vodka for anyway? What's up with that? Hey, who's this coming?
You making fun of MacGyvers are good. Real good.
The best.
Still listening? Good. Let's thank our Patreon patrons. It's Mia in Canberra, Australia, who reminds us about the importance of being an organ donor and checking in on friends and family to make sure they're okay. Bo in Fort Myers, Florida, reminds us that making people smile has a real-world impact. Claire in New Jersey asks, why can MacGyver defuse bombs with paper clips but can't keep a girlfriend alive longer than 2 episodes? Go to deadfictionalgirlfriendsreport.com for the answer to that and more. Caesar, thank you. From Parts Unknown, a testament to the power of MacGyver he is as the show cuts through language and age barriers. He grew up watching MacGyver in Spanish with his grandmother. Thank you to Christian in Norway, a big fan of Stabæk football and Oss, and a fan of one of the all-time great bands, Aha. And Matt Maggiano from Minneapolis, Minnesota, who reminds us about the importance of mental health awareness. Treat yourself with kindness, folks, and please reach out if you think you might need help. And while there are many more professional places to reach out, we're always looking for new friends, so please feel free to reach out to us as well on social media, makingfunofmacgyver@gmail.com. You can call us and leave a message at 904-419-3310. And if you want to throw something in the tip jar and get the perks that come with it, it's patreon.com/makingfunofmacgyver. But above all else, keep coming back, because we're going to keep making fun of MacGyver. So for Mike and Jeff, I'm Sam, and thanks again. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Can you dig it?